Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey there, this is Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. All alone with my friend Shadow Punk, but that's fine. as long as I got one friend, I'm good. I'm good. Anyway, besides, who knows who's going to show up? You know, sometimes I think the CGUK is like streaming right now. Carry on streaming. Talking
really?
about the latest defection prime minister. Lady lasted 44 days.
Right. You know there's something, and a whole another story underneath that.
Yeah. There's got to be a lot of subtext going on there, but it is what it is. So that's probably where that crew is. I usually have one or two of them in my chat.
Yes, that's right.
So that might be where some of them are, but hold on, we got one guy, Jeff Potts, saying, "Yo, all right,
what's up, Jeff? Yo,
yeah, we got one chat member. Success. There we go." there's plenty of shows out there. We just beat with just having one. So there you go.
And I'm telling you, it makes a big difference. Having cool people in the chat and they have cool ideas.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I just figured out, because I'm a moron, I just figured out that on the right you can go over and look at the comments of the not of us, not the private chat, but of them.
Right. Yeah. That's true. He might not be on the Telepathic Bunny channel. He might be either on Will or Luke Stone or Belmont.
They all show up in there?
Yeah, they all show up on the same chat.
Yes, I see. You got Belmont, you got you, and then Luke.
Yeah, we're simulcasting right now to 4 different channels. So
okay.
Possibly 5. Tank Ferret's talking about adding on his. So we might get another location there. Yeah, who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? Anyway, you suggested this Friday inadvertently. You just you're like asking about character creation. You know what goes into character creation, realistic character creation. So,
there's a couple. When I was creating Shadowpunk, and I'm sure everybody goes through this, there's 2 avenues I think that you can go. You can tap into an existing thing that's happening, and Belmont's doing that.
Right.
That's a smart way to go. I'm not going to invent the wheel 100%. Why would I waste my time? Right. This is like Stanley Kubrick saying, I'm not going to make music. I'm going to get cool music and put it in my movie.
Right.
Why would I waste my time? Right. So, and then the other avenue is one where you go, I'm going to go from scratch, and I'm going to tap into certain things. But it's not going to be like the drug culture, for example, like Belmont, right? It's not going to be that. It's not that big. It's going to be like a little, like Shadowpunk taps into the punk rock kind of thing. Yeah. Right. And
yours is actually you're tapping to a very unique corner of sci-fi called the post-apocalyptic epic, basically.
Right.
You're in the same genre as the Mad Max series or somebody like that.
Right.
So, but yours is Mad Maxine, and she's in Detroit. So,
right. It's funny you mention it, because you know how, when you watch the old Godzilla movies, they tapped into this impending doom they all felt after World War II.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really capitalized on that, and so people, if they weren't thinking about it, they were thinking about it in their subconscious.
Right. Yeah. Right. Oh, by the way, since somebody but me showed up, I need to change the logo to. There we go.
Oh, cool.
Crüe. So it's officially a Crüe show. So there you go.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it because it's animated too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little nuance that adds life to everything.
Yeah. I like that. Let's get bigger here. There we go. There we go. Anyway.
Well, the reason I brought up this topic, and I didn't know you were going to do a show on it.
Right.
Is that I also see a lot of creators creating characters that don't tap into anything.
Yeah, right.
Or it's like a super minor genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I watch it and I go, that's interesting. I want to see how good that does because
somebody but me, huh? Well, you're always welcome, Andrew. You are always welcome, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up, dude. He said he's probably at work working on the engine again.
Oh, he's the guy that does airplane engines?
Works on engines, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we got several around here, the engineers and stuff like that. But yeah, so you say, Aaron, you said that you wanted to tap into something that's pre-existing, so you'll have like access to the culture.
Well, I think that, tell me if I'm wrong. Don't you think that would be like a smart thing to like, you have built an audience almost?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's things that resonate with everybody.
Right. And you can really, and so and when people look at it, they don't go, what is that? And they squint their eyes. That doesn't happen.
Well, yours is an interesting sell, though. Because, a lot of guys, when they got the chick protagonist, they've gone with the stacked chick protagonist.
Right. Right.
They're going with the salacious, but you went with the little girl who's like in jeopardy, and fighting her way through this, and she's like vulnerable, and she's like, she could get a tetanus shot and just walking down the street in your world because there's jagged edges everywhere,
Right. Right.
And yet this girl is like managing to survive, and not only survive, but becoming a hero in that world,
Well,
and
yeah,
just like little Greta and climate change.
What did he say?
He said like little Greta and climate change, and
oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
No.
Okay,
Those are fighting words.
I'm doing this for you, man. Up yours.
It's just the way
How
he
dare
was
you?
describing
How
it
dare
sounded
you?
like.
He says, "How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? How dare you?"
That's like almost like you can make a whole character based on her though. A mind control victim
Yeah,
that's parodying people's ideas.
with very clear fetal alcohol syndrome, by the way.
Oh, you think so? Is that right?
She's textbooks fetal alcohol syndrome.
Really?
Those parents had wine while they were pregnant with her. Ain't no doubt about it. I mean, their eyes are a little too close together. She's got that Children of the Corn, kind of face, and it's either a lot of inbreeding or it's fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah,
So.
I had never considered that ever, and now that's creepy as hell.
It is.
Right?
It is. She is creepy, man. She looks like one of the Children of the Corn. I swear she does. She looks like an extra.
If you watch like Far Left podcasts, they don't.
Malachi's bride.
She's Malachi's bride. Is what he
They
said.
don't call her Greta Thunberg. They call her Greta Thunberg.
Thunberg. He's
Right?
Thunberg.
And you're like, all right, it's already dumb, but now this is super level stupid, right?
Oh, you know, she's been doing this world tour. You know what's getting her from point A to point B?
Oh, right, some kind of
multi-million-dollar yacht.
Oh, right.
Her parents are loaded.
Right.
Loaded. Oh, but it's entirely it's like entirely like got photovoltaic cells, and supposedly it's completely fossil fuel free, which bullshit. Yeah, anyway.
Oh, right. Right.
Every single one of those things have engines on board so they don't get like stranded in like because in the middle of the ocean the sun doesn't shine all the time.
Right. If you're in the North Atlantic, you're gonna need more than solar.
He says it's like camera crews on reality shows. So yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. He's taking a jab at me because there was a show on Sci-Fi Channel, and it was like where they went to these haunted places and they're supposedly all by themselves, and I was like really into that show, right? And he's like, how do they have multiple camera angles and they're all by themselves? And I was like, up yours, Craig.
Illusion shattered.
And I told him there was no Santa.
Then he told me there's no Santa. So there you go.
That's what it is, man. It's like The second you see the camera wiggle, you're like,
yeah.
and it happens to everybody at some point. You just go, boop.
Well, I mean, it was just like a moment, I was like, yeah.
So she's a good example. I mean, like if you wanted to tap into existing things that people understand today, she would be a really cool villain to make, like a little mind controlled slave or something. Where you know at the beginning of the show you don't think she is one, and then later on you find out that the big deal's running controlling her or something like that, and people would recognize that stuff.
Yeah, well, she's spoiled rotten. I mean, she's a spoiled rotten brat. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And and she's just like self-absorbed, and she's got all the signs of narcissism and sociopathy. I mean, she's got all the signs, and that just comes from being told you're the center of the universe all your life. Everything's revolving around you, and so she gets it in her head that she can like save the world by going and chiding people and
Right.
and being like the big hall monitor or whatever. But she has no friends. Okay, no, she's not cool. Nobody likes her. She's totally pushed by all the media, and nobody likes her. I mean, she was on that festival show or the festival, the one they do in England, one of the huge ones they do, Glastonbury, I think it was. Okay. And they brought her out on stage, and she was booed, soundly booed. Okay, of course, at the same time, Glastonbury had all these like charging stations for EVs. You know what the charging stations had to run the charge? Diesel power generators.
No shit.
Yep. I saw the pictures. Diesel power generators. And then after the festival was over, there was like trash everywhere. So all these environmentally conscious kids just left trash everywhere.
Well, you know what's funny is I would like to know what people in the chat think, because I don't think for example, I saw her talk one time and she said something like it's all bullshit, right? Something to that effect. And she said it to the crowd, right? And she was sort of chiding the crowd. And then they didn't go, "Oh, you're freaking right."
Oh, you're right.
Like, actually, they're so brainwashed.
Thank you for revealing the truth to us, Greta.
Exactly.
We need your insight and your ponytail and your pigtails. And anyway, whatever.
Crazy shit, man.
She's freaking she's Heidi. They freaking found Heidi.
Like Heidi, like a Scandinavian stereotype.
Yeah, she's basically Heidi. She's got the pigtails and and she's from the same area where Heidi was supposedly from. I mean, she's Heidi. It is what it is. But
anyway,
but if you're going to go off of live, real characters, okay. Getting back to the subject while we're here. If you're gonna go with live characters, finding somebody that's that outlandish, that like over the top, is not a bad thing. That's one of the reasons why they keep using Trump. It's because Trump is, not only are they all have TDS, like bad. Like bad. I mean, they wake up in the middle of the night hugging their Obama, stuffed Obama to their chest, and Donald Trump, oh my God, he's coming back. They all wake up in the middle of the night in sweat and think about Donald Trump. But the thing about it is you see it all through media now. There's that over the top. He's usually white. He's usually a former businessman turned to politics, and he always has over crazy hair.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, right.
That's just one example off the top of my head, but it's all over media. And the reason why is because he's so easy to change into a character, because they already got a caricature of him in their head.
You bring that up. I'll tell you this. It's always funny when you watch Trump talk. Sometimes it's like in interviews, especially.
Yeah.
He'll say something like, they don't like Trump.
No.
He talks about Trump as the third
person.
And so you know that when he started, he said, I don't want the slings and arrows. I'm gonna if I create a character or persona, then I won't take it personal when they go after me, And so, but it's always I'm always like, that's really weird, man.
What they don't understand is one of the where Trump learned this from is kayfabe in wrestling.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And hold on 1 second. Wyatt says an arrogant, confident person who's successful is unnerving to people who are taught that humility is good and exuberance is villainous. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It's a good point because
Good point.
A lot of the people that are in the media, if they had to do it on their own, they would actually Greta and all these media people, they would zero. Nobody would listen to them.
No. I mean, it's they're taught that like it's humility is like some kind of like positive attribute or something, and truth of the matter is humility is a good thing, but the moment you realize you have humility, you lost it. It's a very fragile thing.
Sure, I mean, what can you do, right?
I mean, it's like I kept having this person like say, you know what, you're a real humble person, and I'm like, don't say that. The moment you pointed it out, you pointed it out,
True, but like as a person, you have to when you become self-conscious of something, doesn't mean you can't evaluate yourself, right? I mean, we're only capable of doing so much, right? If someone says that to you, if you're a humble person, and you can end up, even if you're self-aware of that, you can still be humble. It doesn't just go away.
Totally. Well, the thing about it is, though, I think it's really interesting about him that I think you can use probably for your character development is that he's got what I'll call a cutout. Okay, he's basically got when they attack him, they're attacking a caricature that he's created. They're not really getting anywhere close to him.
Right.
And so they can just spew the most vile, horrible stuff at him. I mean, the only time they really dent him any way, shape, or form is when they go after his family. And then he starts like getting mad. He starts he starts actually showing emotion. But for the most part, they just go after him, with all the knives out, and he's like, yeah, bring it on. He's like a scarecrow, just stab it, and that's all it is straw. And he's just showing a straw man, and because the core of people, one of the things you have to decide when you do a character is who are they really to themselves, and is that what they're showing the world?
That's a good point.
Because there's if the person that your character is showing the world is exactly 100% who they are, then you have a character that what you see is what you get. And I see this a lot.
Right.
But most people are two people.
Sure.
I mean,
the private person, the public person.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm an ex-murderer when I'm not on the show. When I come on the show, I'm a simple guy who's wondering about stuff.
There you go. And people continue to disappear in Detroit. It is what it is.
It serves a purpose, though.
It's a crime-ridden place, It
is. I'm helping out.
People disappear.
I'm the Punisher of Detroit.
Well, that. Were that be true, that might be a cool thing.
That would be cool. I mean, you'd have to have
it would be kind of cool. I'm waiting for a Punisher to show up.
That would be super cool.
They have pushed us to vigilantism so far. I just keep waiting for a Punisher to show up. Somebody's just going to start lighting these places up.
I think 50 years ago, you could probably do it easier and get away with it. I think now the chances of them tracking you would be very different. I mean,
And they'd be very motivated because they don't want anybody to keep in the peace. They want, I mean, anybody that does that, like that kid in I think Indiana Mall or something like that, that shot that jackass from across the freaking mall food court,
Oh, really?
and nailed him in the head.
Yikes.
That guy, I mean, he ended it like almost instantly. I mean, the guy like basically pulled out and got a couple of shots off. And this kid who was not supposed to have a weapon in the mall pulls the pistol out and shoots this kid, shoots him dead. I mean, dead.
So the person he shot was someone who was on a rampage or something?
Well, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, look it up. The press buried it. But this kid like nailed that guy from across the food court.
But the
I
guy,
mean, it was
I'm saying, but the
incredible
guy
shot. It would be a good shot for a rifle, and he got him with a pistol.
But you're saying the guy that he shot, because I don't know the story, is somebody that was up to no good.
Yeah, it was gonna be a mass shooting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is good. Everyone has three selves: the ideal, the animal, and the malicious. That's interesting. That's interesting, Aaron. Well, Andrew, if you want to come on, man, I'll give you the freaking link because you're genius over here tonight, man. Love your stuff tonight.
So, another good example of a good character creator is the one right behind you, the Frankenstein monster.
Well,
okay?
That's why I put him up there. I mean, he literally created. It was literally a creation, right? And it was like it's like unique in literature. There's nothing like it before that. It's basically the creation of Gothic literature, and it just came from a bad trip. One weekend at a weekend getaway. I mean,
but okay, but so Mary Shelley wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm,
so she was tapping into something that already existed, which was probably the merger of science and the idea of, is God real, right? Can you actually create your own life, kind of a thing? Because I think at some point, back then,
well, science was really new. Science was really new, and so the questions were like, well, where are we going with this? Because there's all sorts of things. Let me read this. This is the story. Okay.
Cool.
Greenwood, Indiana, July 18th. This is from Reuters. Okay. So this isn't from like a left or right wing outlet. So I expect to see some.
All about the Rothschilds, but go ahead.
All right. Yeah. They're all wearing. Yeah, they're all. Anyway, the gunman who killed 3 people in a shopping mall near Indianapolis likely would have taken many more lives if not for the heroic actions of an armed bystander who shot the suspect dead and stopped the attack. Police said on Monday.
Wow.
Elijah Dicken, it's a really strange spelling, 22, who was lawfully carrying a concealed pistol at the time, engaged the suspect on Sunday almost as soon as he opened fire with a rifle in a food court at the Greenwood Park Mall in Greenwood, Indiana. Authorities, hold on. Let me bring Wyatt on board. I'm just reading this story, Wyatt. Hang on, man.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah.
What's up?
So I'm reading about the mall, the kid
that
killed the guy in the mall. Yeah. You remember the kid that plugged the guy across the food court in the mall in Indiana? Yeah, I'm reading about him. So anyway, he's lawfully carrying a concealed pistol at the time, engaged his suspect on Sunday, almost as soon as he opened fire with a rifle in a food court in Greenwood Park Mall in Greenwood, Indiana, authorities said. Police said they did not know the motive behind the rampage. Oh, by the way, it took the police well over 10 minutes to even get there. It would have been a bloodbath, okay? So Dicken immediately became a call celebrity for guns right after. I knew the slant was coming. Who argued despite governmental statistics to the contrary. You see, I knew it. They're going to slant it. I knew it. But armed civilians are the best defense against the kind of random mass shootings that killed more 100 people in the United States last year. Bullshit. All right. Greenwood Park Chief credited Dicken, who was at the shopping mall and with his girlfriend on Sunday night, as a hero whose bravery and competence prevented further bloodshed. He says space and time to process what he's gone through. He says he was proficient. He was tactically sound. And he moved at the gunman with a handgun from quite a distance as he engaged and closed in on the suspect. He had motion for others in the vicinity to exit behind him. Okay. And Dicken afterwards turned himself to mall security personnel and cooperated with the police. The shooting lasted just 2 minutes from the time suspect opened fire till he was killed. And beforehand, the gunman had spent more than an hour in a mall restroom apparently preparing for the attack, putting together the murder weapon he carried disassembled in a bag. So Dickin is initially handcuffed and gun was confiscated before he was taken for questioning by the police department. Yeah. Anyway, where his account was verified by video footage. Thank God for that, right? Many more people would have died last night if not for, anyway. So the gunman was Jonathan Douglas Spearman, at 20, a local resident, lived alone, quit his warehouse job on May, had recently been evicted, and yet he had all this weaponry.
Right.
Yeah, and except for a juvenile record. He had a juvenile record, like all of them do, including a fight at the school and a runway incident, which will put him on the FBI's watch list, supposedly. And he believed to walk to the mall. And he had 2 rifles purchased in March and a handgun with several magazines of ammunition, over 100 rounds of bullets, and he fired over 24 rounds from one of the rifles. And he had been at the local shooting range for target practice over the past 2 years. So the people killed were 2 were a husband and wife, 56 and 37 respectively. Third was a 30-year-old man. 2 people were wounded. But what they don't say is that kid plugged him from, I think it was like 50 yards or something like that. But
yeah, but see, this whole story right here, right here is an example in and of itself of like creating a hero, creating a villain, and creating.
Yeah. And you're going. He fades in and out. He fades in and out.
So the real hero is the police who weren't there at the time. This other guy, this aberration, this vigilante, took law into his own hands. They mention him briefly, and now it's like, well, now that we mentioned the hero, he's the Zeus de Machina, comes in, off bad guy. Now let's talk about the bad guy, right? Now, if your politics are informing you in this scenario, an ideal scenario would be to juxtapose the two. Here's an example. The villain, several laws, got his weapons in haste. The system didn't catch it. The other guy, I bet, I'm willing to bet, if you just looked at the guy, the man who shot the perp, I bet if we went through and like talked to his family and talked to him, purchased his gun legally, went and got his concealed carry permit,
went through all the hoops. This is
right.
The embodiment of all the hoops. Yep.
Absolutely. The embodiment of responsible gun ownership. Like if you're a gun control advocate, if you really think about it, that guy is like, that is your Superman. It's like, look, if you follow the laws and you go through the background checks, good people end up with guns. And so like the way they're casting this is like a great case study to just explain what's going on. You know,
this happened in July. This happened in July, and they buried it so deep that Shadowpunk didn't even know about it. And Shadowpunk watches the news religiously.
Well, I wouldn't use those words. You make a good point. I mean, they definitely have an agenda to push all this down.
Right.
And the second, like it's almost like all this left wing violence. You know, remember like that one guy went to the baseball field with all the senators?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's swept under the rug.
He shot U.S. senators, and it wasn't front page news a week later.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that's important about that. What do we know about victims in narrative? You always know.
And he's gone.
Nice. He's on Air Force One. That's what happens.
I know.
There you go. There you
go. but
and you're gone.
Like the right-wing villain of the day.
Right. Well, what we're talking about, so what we're talking about, realistic character creation. Okay, that's the scenario right there. That sounds fictional. It sounds like something fictional. It sounds like somebody's wet dream. Okay. Like it sounds like Die Hard. That sounds like it sounds like the what happened with Die Hard, right? So these
Right,
guys,
right.
they take over a place, and this guy who has training and has the weapon intervenes. He's an ordinary civilian. John McClane, and he winds up intervening and saving the day. And it sounds like something that you would put in a. And it sounds like a plot. It sounds like something fictional, but it happened. And
So, you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like if you lived in a normal world where people thought rationally, this would be like Avengers number 25.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden they find him. They go, dude, you're amazing. Can you join the Avengers? And then you find out he was part of a circus. He's been shooting since he was 2 years old. He's like Hawkeye. He's like Hawkeye with guns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, think about it. It's think about it is when you talk about realistic character creation, we talk about is it alive or not. One of the secrets to that is if you find somebody like a real inspiration, somebody real, like this guy Elisha Dickens is his name, or somebody like Audie Murphy.
Right.
Audie Murphy sounds like a fictional character. Okay.
Right.
I mean, this little curly-headed guy from Texas that has one of the highest kill numbers in American Army history. I mean, he had more accommodations than anybody that's ever any soldier we've ever had. And if he were to wear all his ribbons and stuff the awards that they gave him for meritorious conduct and things like that, it would cover. I seen a picture of him with that on, and it covered the whole entire front. And unlike General Milley, he actually earned that shit. Okay, but as a matter of fact, I saw him side by side one time as General Milley, and he had all these straps and all these ribbons. And Audie Murphy had this right here, and he earned every dang one of them.
Well, to your point, though, I think that if I'm not mistaken, Captain America.
That reminds me of
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you got it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I have some friends. Can you hear me? Am I coming through all right?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
It seems like there's a little bit of delay on my end, but no. Anyway, what I was just gonna say real quick is a buddy of mine. He's in pararescue. He always told me when it comes to ribbons and all that, he's like, look, we're special forces. We actually do shit. And so it's he said if you look at any PJ's uniform and they're in blues, he's like they pick the 4 best ribbons and they just wear one stripe. He's like He's like we could put all our stuff on, but just look like an idiot. He's like we just put the 4 most important ones to us, and then roll with it from there.
Right.
Well, I heard an Army guy, a friend of mine, say that the more ribbons and more accoutrement that you see on somebody's uniform, the more they have to improve that they're impressive. Because they're not impressive, but the more.
It's like if a.
Well, I mean, it's like Audie Murphy walked into a room.
If a pilot crosses so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if a pilot so much as crosses a wingtip into a war zone, they can get the ribbon and wear it legally. And it's like that to me. I always looked at that. I was like, why would you do that? To me, that's as good as stolen valor. And I had some pilots and some officers get upset at me saying that, and I was just like, well, what? Why would you wear it? Did you fight there? No. We were part of the mission. It's like, well, everybody's some way, somehow attached to the mission. It's like, come on, bro. Be realistic.
Yeah, I mean, if you just if you're in the background, in the canteen, slopping food on plates, and it's a part of a campaign, you get that ribbon. Yeah, so I mean, you have cooks that have ribbons that have ribbons all the way down. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It means nothing.
That kind of false valor, we'll call it, fake valor. You see it not just in the military, but you also see it in people that say stuff like, "We're on the front lines every day." Yeah. And you're like, "Well, what do? Are you under threat?" Well, no, I clean the floors in the janitor's office in the school. You know, they think they're public servants, so they think that they're on the front lines or something like that.
Right.
And so a lot of people have this kind of bizarre notion of like, valor, you know.
I think the medical medical wing,
Right.
you know, kind of like
That's a
really
good
took
example.
a hit where people lost a ton of respect for the medical people because look at these heroes, look at these heroes, look at these people in heroes, and then everybody's dying and they're doing TikTok videos and everybody's like,
hey guys, I'm gonna have to dip out real quick. I'll be right back.
No problem, man. I'll see you. But yeah, but you talk about real heroes, you talk about real people. Like Audie Murphy was a real person who like charged pillboxes, drug his you know, his company out of danger single-handedly, you know, took out like infantry, you know. You got the people like Sergeant York, who actually made a whole entire you know, company of German soldiers, you know, give in and you know, just with the threat that they knew if they tried to run or if they turned on him, that the first person that turned on him was going to die. he was able to keep them in front of him and march them, you know. And that sounds ridiculous. It sounds like something fictional, but it's not fictional. There's plenty out there you can be inspired by. You know, there's plenty out there you can be inspired by.
If you're making heroes and you're making villains, let's say you're making a villain.
Yeah.
You know, what are the components that villain's got to have? Because there's a lot of villains in the DC and Marvel universe that are not that great.
Yeah.
And you know,
well, they keep trying to make it. They keep trying to make their villains like sympathetic because they are villains. And it's like if a villain were to make a movie, then they'd want their villain to be like sympathetic, right?
Right.
And so these villains are making these movies, and so they're making Cruella de Vil, making her fashionista, you know, and it's like, well, she killed puppies because they killed her mother first. You know, and it's like she's murdering puppies for fur. Okay.
Well, are you saying also like you mean like Walter White? Like he's really a villain?
Well, the thing about Walter White though, and I have to admit, yeah, he's a villain the whole entire way, but there's this part of you that rooted for him. And
without a doubt.
I mean, it was just like weird, but that he is such a example of that persona, right? Because he was doing this persona to all these criminals that he was like his hard ass. He was Heisenberg. He was terrifying. He was this monster. But then he to himself, he was like this poor little put upon, you know, high school science teacher that's just trying to protect his family, right?
Right.
But then there at the end, when his wife was like, "Oh, don't even give me that bullshit," he's like, "No, I did it because I was good at it."
Right.
And I loved it. I enjoyed it. You know, I love doing it. You know, you find those two personas, you finally realize there was no second persona. There was only Heisenberg. He always was Heisenberg.
Or he gave into that part of his sinful side, and he basically left the good side way behind.
Well, at that point, you know, but at the same time, he did something that science teacher would have done. He saved Jesse.
Oh, right. I got you. Right.
Yeah. Because at the beginning of it, he was always kind of like, well, Jesse, you know, you need to do this, you know, before, you know, let's get you out of danger. And then he like put Jesse squarely in danger, you know, but then there at the end, he like at one moment of grace where he saves Jesse, you know, but then what is it, you know, I mean, yeah, he ended on that heroic note, but you know, he was still a villain. I mean,
right.
But he had like that one moment of grace, you know. He had like that one moment of pulp, you know. He stopped being noir for a moment, you know.
So in Breaking Bad's a good example where the villain is actually the hero of the story, the protagonist.
Right.
And the good guys are actually the antagonists.
Yeah.
And that kind of, what it does is I think when people
Mm-hmm.
watch that, they actually, it creates another level of dimension. Right.
Well, they created the illusion that he was the underdog. All the way through, they found a way to make him the underdog all the way through.
Because there's always this tension, like, oh my God, can he get out of this? Right.
Yeah.
And then, and you just want that. You don't want him to get hurt, but you do want him to stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they can string you along with 5 or 3 or 4 an episode, you're always gunning for him to get out and, and just make it out alive,
Yeah.
And that's enough to you to slowly become sympathetic with him.
Right. Yeah.
Same with, but somebody like there's Doctor Doom, there's Lex Luthor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these characters are quasi-insane too.
Yeah.
They're not exactly playing with the full deck. And you don't really know exactly what, even you don't know exactly why.
Right.
I think the original Lex Luthor was quite the half in the bag, like a half in the bag madman.
Yeah.
And he was also like a super genius. That's my impression.
Well, eventually he got a lot more nuance. I mean, he developed into just somebody who basically saw Superman as like an invasive force,
right?
And that he was like defending humanity against this guy that the moment that he knew was going to turn someday, and so he in his head he had that he was the last line of defense against Superman once Superman did turn, which is what he's always believed Superman was going to turn.
Well, in the cartoon, they have a whole thing where they have a separate universe that spawns from him killing Lex Luthor, and then they become the Justice Lords, right? Yeah. So, but that also that reinvention of Lex Luthor comes over the decades, right? We just want to keep people intrigued. But Doctor Doom hasn't really changed a whole lot. We talk about Magneto; he's changed. But he's not. Everyone has their own kind of opinion about stuff. I don't think that I want my villains to be maniacs, insane, and they can be like more like Darth Vader-esque, controlling, like Darkseid. He's a little bit like that too, right? Yeah. You just want to make friends with Darkseid and say, just stop it, right?
I have never wanted to make friends with Darkseid, not once. That's never been on the menu. That guy is just bad.
I'll give you a good example. So Doomsday ends up on Apocalypse, and he actually beats the shit out of the Darkseid. All right, and so Superman shows up, and he's floating there next to Darkseid, who just got up his ass. And at some point, he's like, "Okay, you guys are the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So you're kind of like these two are together for the moment."
Yeah, and
that's the moment where you go, Darkseid. If Superman's willing to help you, you should actually cool it a bit, right? That's kind of the feeling you get out of the book. And it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit of the Walter White thing where you go, you're sympathetic to a small degree, but then it dissipates instantly, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think if you want to like make a realistic villain, that having some villain have some kind of justification to themselves for what they've done.
Right.
Some kind of benevolent cause in their head.
Right. Some greater good.
Yeah, it's like C.S. Lewis said that the most horrible things that ever happened to humanity have been done by people who thought that they were helping humanity.
Right.
And so all these awful things that have happened to humanity, usually at the core, is from people who's like the help humanity. I need to save humanity. I have to destroy it or something,
Right.
And,
I have to eliminate half the population. Thanos. I have to eliminate half the population to save
right.
everybody.
Exactly. I'm doing it for your good.
Right.
And all those people die. And he's like, I did it for your good. It's like, oh well, thank you very much.
But you know what the goofy part about Thanos
What's up,
is
everybody? I'm back.
I don't think they never really explained why Thanos, where he got that opinion from.
Yeah, they did. They did explain it. Yeah.
Where did he get it from?
He explained it to Gamora when he was like
slaughtering. He did. Yep, on
slaughtering
Saturn,
half of her world. He was, doing the whole, balancing the knife, and he's telling her, "In my world, people starved to death because there was not enough resources."
No, they did it another time too. When they went, remember when Tony Stark and they all fought Thanos on the moon of Saturn?
Yeah,
he showed them a picture of what it used to be, and he said, "I had a plan. If we wiped out half of them, we would still be here."
Yeah, right.
And so they did explain it twice, and I'm wrong. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The Thanos in the comic book was a lot less sanctimonious to me. He just wanted to knock boots with death.
Right.
And he thought if he killed enough people, he would impress her enough that she would want him. That's more true to male to me. He was a simp. He was like a super powered simp. He said, please love me. What's that?
But I mean, him being a high-minded galactic eugenicist, I mean, it kind of has some relevance today. I mean,
no, what are you saying? They would never do that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Right.
When I was watching the Avengers movies, I was actually thinking that. I'm like, this is going somewhere because shit hadn't gone down yet when the first.
Well, when you see the people that were on Twitter that said Thanos was right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, a bunch of these monsters, these climate change idiots that have drunk the Kool-Aid of climate change, were saying, "Oh, Thanos is right." And a lot of people think that this COVID thing was to wipe out a lot of population of the world.
Well, of course it is.
Because they think they're saving the world. That whole thing about I'm going to save humanity, but I got to crack a few eggs to make this omelet, and that true villainy of intent of virtue. Virtue is like one of the most despicable attributes on the planet because virtue isn't real. Okay, virtue is something that you ascribe to yourself. It's not, and it's never something that somebody else ascribes to you. It's something that you ascribe to yourself. If you consider yourself virtuous, then usually you're sanctimonious. Usually you give yourself a carte blanche to do whatever you want to your fellow man.
You know who's a good example of this? Is Dr. Go ahead.
What?
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I was just going to say, it's like usually if you ascribe virtue to yourself, there's only one descriptor that's ever used. Arrogance. Hubris. I mean, like, who are you to say that you are virtuous? Like, that's like the most arrogant thing you can do, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So a good example of this is Dr. Frankenstein. Okay. He said I think he said something to the effect of I'm God now. And he says, and by the way, in the end, how it doesn't end well for him.
No, right? It does not.
And the viewer watches it and goes, you kind of got what you made.
Yeah.
This is kind of your fault,
Well, that was the point Mary Shelley was making, that ultimately the scientific mind's going to try to become God, and it's going to destroy everything.
So I don't know how much you guys know about the Tolkien world, but and that's one of his points too. Sauron and Saruman all come from they are craftsmen. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they're spirits, right? But they were trained by the craftsmen of the gods, basically. So it's and Tolkien's one of his points is these people will always do that stuff. Right? And the people that are like the hobbits will not. They're never going to have the aspiration to go past God.
Yeah. Well, the hobbits could carry the ring because they had no aspirations for higher.
And they were grounded. They were grounded to the earth.
Yeah, and hobbits, all they wanted was as long as you keep them fed, as long as they can sit at home with their feet up and look after their
Get
kids
fat.
and their wife, they're cool with the world. They have no ambition beyond that, and which is why the hobbits could carry the ring longer than anybody else, because
Right.
I mean,
Frodo and Sam.
yeah. And I mean, Sam couldn't carry it as long as Frodo, because Frodo had a strength of will that was just special to Frodo. But the thing about it is, though, is that point was made, that the hobbits are just like at their core. It's not that they're shallow, but they're at their core, they're very practical. And
Right.
practical people don't think of other things. They're kind of like third world as opposed to first world. A lot of these things that we're dealing with right now are first world problems. They don't exist in the third world.
Right.
Matt Walsh goes over there in that documentary, What is a Woman? And then he tries to he goes to the tribesmen in like Africa, and he has that, and through a translator, he's trying to ask this question that he's been asking over here, and he's getting these answers like, well, it just depends. It's all on, it depends on this, it depends on that, and all this like, obscuring, right? Nobody will say. He even goes to a women's march, and they won't tell him what a woman is. They're like, if you're not here for women, go away. He's like, well, what is that? What is that?
I remember
You're marching here at
right.
a woman's march, and then you won't tell me what a woman is, But then he goes over to these tribesmen, and the tribesmen are like, well, that is a woman over there, you dummy. That's a woman,
Is that your question?
Yeah, exactly. But they prove the point that they have this practicality, that we don't have. I mean, they think about survival. They think about their survival of their family, the survival of their line. They don't think about these petty little bullshit that comes out of these college professors that sit around all day justifying their salaries by putting out papers with absolutely no conscionable link to any kind of intelligence whatsoever. But
so, I have a question for you. Okay.
Yep.
So we're talking about writers and crafting cool characters.
Yep.
In your mind, you and Wyatt, are there writers who are great at doing that?
Yeah, there are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people who are, incredible at crafting characters, and I guess when we're talking about crafting good characters, it's like, I would say you got to start from like, what kind of story are you trying to tell? And we kind of talked about it in the chat briefly, because like me and Luke were talking, and he's like, look, I don't want to talk about politics. I just want to tell cool stories about cool characters. And I'm like, but what is that? Like, define cool, right? Well, I just want to do stories that talk about good and evil. Okay, what is good and what is evil? It's like,
see, what people don't understand is, no, you can't define cool. Cool either happens or it doesn't. Cool is something that's attributed to what comes out of you later. There's some people that are just cool, but they don't make that determination to be cool. They just are. Like the dude. Right. In a Great Lebowski, he's just cool. He doesn't attribute it to himself. He doesn't try to be cool. He just is. The dude abides. And of course,
And I think that goes to what we talked about later in that conversation, where it's like, when you look at comics right now, it's like, it's not about life. It's not about real situations. It's about lifestyle. It's like, what is your lifestyle? Well, I am LGBTQ. I am a person of color. I am, this.
Right.
I am that. It's like that. And then, okay, like, these are characteristics of you that point to an outer style of living, but who are you at your core? It's like, it becomes a vain exercise if I'm gonna deconstruct Batman, and all I'm looking for is his lifestyle. Like,
Right.
and you see it in what they write, because they say, well, why doesn't Batman do more? Because he's rich. He's rich. And it's like,
Because
do you
well,
understand his
well,
internal code of ethics? Do you
yeah.
understand what? Go
Because
ahead.
Batman understands that he's actually poor. The money
Really?
means nothing. He that night that his parents were slaughtered in front of him, he understood what the truth about wealth. Okay, and then the truth is that he's actually he doesn't go out. I mean, if he goes out, he goes just for
Right.
appearances, right?
Right.
He doesn't enjoy food. He doesn't like. He's not a gourmand. He doesn't like go yachting because he just wants to go yachting. He goes yachting to like put on a persona, right? But and his only friend is like Alfred, who's his technically his paid servant. Okay, and and people like that try to get close to him run into that wall, because he's mission oriented, and that's all he is. He's about the mission. He's determined that no other kid is going to be standing in the rain with his dead parents on a street corner somewhere. That's his determination, and he will die before he lets that happen. If he can control it, if he can stop it, and that's his entire life. That's the whole entire reason he is there. That money, it's just a means to an end for him, right?
You make an excellent point, because you're right. He realized at that point, or maybe later on, that the money didn't help his parents survive.
No, he can't buy them back to life.
Right, can't buy him back to life, right?
No, and so I mean, his parents tried to do it through altruism. His parents tried to do it the old-fashioned way. They threw money at it. They tried to like make infrastructure, but the criminals, criminal politicians like took the money and then did something half-assed. The money that they gave them, and that they were never able to make any headway because of the strata of crooks that happen in big cities where everybody has a handout. The other day, San Francisco tried to make a single toilet, and it was $1.7 million price tag to make a single toilet.
Right.
The self-contained toilet, okay? And that was the price tag for it. And why? Because everybody had their freaking hands out. And so he saw that. He saw his father and his mother's frustration, and that after they died, everybody came to the funeral and cried, but nothing changed, because that as soon as their money stopped, everything stopped. And so he grew up, and then he's like, you know what would have fixed, or what would have saved them, is somebody having the ability to save them. Somebody who could have blocked Joe Chill, who could have put Joe Chill in jail before Joe Chill showed up in that alleyway. That's the only thing that would have saved them. We're going back to that whole vigilante thing. Okay, why?
So I'm looking at, as far as people that are creators that come up with really great characters, it's also challenging because it's so hard to do. And I was thinking of the guy who created Wolverine, Len Wein, right? I don't know how many characters he really made that were as kick-ass as Wolverine. It kind of tells you how hard it really is to, and like someone like Alan Moore, he doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't actually create as much as he does recreate, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. I don't think.
Yeah, Alan Moore's made his whole entire life off of repurposing.
Yeah, I was gonna say he retreads old characters. I can't really think of any. V for Vendetta. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That is original, right? That's not based on anything.
Well, V for Vendetta, it came off of Guy Fawkes.
Well, Guy Fawkes wasn't like a superhero type guy either, right?
No, but if Guy Fawkes was a superhero, he would have been V from Vendetta.
Probably, right?
Okay.
Well, who was the king of coming up with awesome characters that nailed it on the button, was Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Because
I'll agree to that.
Seriously, Silver Surfer.
Kirby and Ditko. Kirby and Ditko.
They're awesome, and who knows what's in the air out there? Whatever they were eating, whatever they were drinking, because.
Well, if you look at specifically Ditko, if you look at the creations that Ditko did, Ditko basically created somebody to personify something that he wanted to personify. You know,
right.
the question, the Spider-Man. You know, I mean, all these. Essentially, these characters that he came up with personified something. You know, he wanted an attribute, somebody that personified an attribute. Jack Kirby just created worlds. I mean, Jack Kirby, King Kirby, he just had a boundless imagination. But Kirby basically put the wheels on Stan Lee's musings, basically.
Right.
Because our good man, Mr. Stanley, he basically was a dreamer. But he would come up with these ideas and he would just like throw them out there, and then these guys will put wheels on it, right? But
I wonder if that's true. I wonder though if Kirby actually came up with the Silver Surfer and Galactus, for example, and then Stan Lee put the words in their mouth.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the Marvel method was basically Stan Lee just throws it off, and then they catch it and they do something with it.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean that's what was reputed to have happened. I mean that's what all the documentaries say, and that's what all the personal accounts say. That basically Stan Lee just sat there in the bullpen and he would just throw stuff off. Hey, what if I got a blind superhero? Okay, yeah, okay, all right. Blind superhero. Okay, blind justice. Oh, okay, he has something to do with justice system. Oh, he's a lawyer. Yeah, a lawyer. Okay, a lawyer. I like that. Okay,
right.
so he defends people. Okay, and he's blind, like blind justice. Like, okay, how did he get blind? Oh, let's just go with radioactive material. We always go with radioactive material. Yeah, stuck him right in the eyeballs. So now he's blind, but how can he get around? Oh, he must have some super senses. Super senses, that works, right? And because he's got super senses and he can't see danger, he's fearless. Man without fear. Okay. And what's a man without fear? A daredevil. Yes, daredevil. Okay. And let me give him a name that's alliteration, like I give everybody a name that's alliteration. What okay, Matt, what goes? Matt Murdock. Matt, he's Irish. Yeah, he's got red hair. Okay, Matt Murdock. There you go. And he lives in Hell's Kitchen, because that's where a daredevil would live, in Hell's Kitchen.
But I'll tell you something. If you make it sound easy, but look how rare it is.
Well, I mean, at the beginning, they were writing all this stuff just from the air, but that was the formula, man. That kind of pinballing. Yeah. Maybe Jack Kirby is like, oh, he can live in Hell's Kitchen. Make him like a devil. I gotta give him a devil costume. Yeah, that'd be great.
Stuff like that. Right.
So, by the way, he's Catholic. I don't know where the Catholic thing came in, but that was genius. But they always gave him like his twist, right? Like a surgeon's all about science. A surgeon lives an entire life with science. Let's make him a magician.
So the Catholic thing is really interesting, because if you're crafting a character, that character needs a moral code.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is their way of sort of like letting you get it right away. Right.
Yeah. Right. But I think I mean, if we have a point to be made tonight, that if you're going to make realistic characters, ones that are true to life, that are alive. Yep. Starting with somebody that's actually living and breathing is not a bad to start at. Okay.
It's a good idea.
And okay. Well, looks like I've got my my bot. Okay, we'll block that user.
Oh, that's crazy.
Block that user. Yeah, I got bots over there. Oh man. But the thing about this is if you're gonna have to come up with a character, why don't you Yeah. Anyway,
Hellbot.
Hellbot.
Right.
Not sure you're not a bot, Nefarious. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, start with something, get where your inspiration comes from. Can have a lot to do with what you come up with, okay? And I'm not talking about just rip somebody off from real life, but most of these characters that are so absolutely iconic now, I mean, they came from somebody that was living and breathing, like Shazam, the guy, the face of Shazam was Fred McMurray.
Really?
Yeah, that's who they designed Shazam to look like, Fred McMurray. A young Fred McMurray, yeah. So I mean, but I mean, that was his face, where his face came from. But I'm sure there's like other things like that. Anyway, I got a thing for bots, a certain fondness for sure. Well, you brought them with you because they didn't start showing up until you showed up, Neff.
That's true.
I mean, I'm seeing a correlation here, dude.
I'll say one more thing. Neff's icon looks like a mastermind villain.
Yeah, he kind of does. Yeah,
he looks like the wizard.
And name Nefarious is not exactly a pleasant thing,
Oh, he's taking control.
Yeah. He's Nefarious, all right. Luck is, yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm trying to block everybody but Neff, but if I block Neff, oh well, it happens. I'll unblock him later. Anyway, all right. So yeah, realistic character creation. I know we just went around the world tonight, but I think I think honestly, no. Yeah, I blocked all your bots. Yeah, you're thwarted for the night. Anyway, but we'll talk about when you go through character creation, there's realistic character creation. Do the shout around with me. You are banished. Yes, you are banished. Anyway. But yeah, you just can't go wrong. Find somebody that's real. Find somebody that actually existed. And study them. I mean, study their life. Study the way they interacted or things like that. But you can also take from people I mean, people that are around you every day. Or you can take from people you admire. But most of the time, realistic character creation is just basically, it's usually the formula for your characters comes from you. And what your ideas, your beliefs, your philosophies, and so that's different for everybody. Everybody cooks differently,
True.
I think when you really start looking at like characters people create, I think it's very seldom that you'll find somebody who makes a genuine character out of whole cloth. I think characters are always on something experienced. I mean, when you look at just look at the difference in writers now in comics. I mean, you had people back then in the heyday of comics. What were they writing about? They were writing about going out, you work at a job, you do this, you do that, you do things you hate, you have experiences with neighbors and friends and all this other stuff. I mean, is it any coincidence
Spider-Man can't pay his rent?
Right. Like, I mean, there's people could say what they want to about Stan Lee, but I feel like if Ditko created Spider-Man, I believe that Stan Lee created Peter Parker, because Peter Parker is every bit Stan Lee's self-insert.
That's a good point, because Peter Parker is a huge component to making that character work.
Peter Parker is the Superman of the Marvel Universe.
And really, without Peter Parker, Spider-Man is just not interesting. I mean, you saw a case study on that. Look at that character DC made, Sideways. Looked at very much built in the same, like, on paper should be a hit, but it was like, if you don't make that secret identity compelling, I mean, isn't any coincidence people are tired of seeing characters talking in coffee shops. I mean, these writers are writing what they know. It's like, dude, go freaking hitchhiking somewhere. Go on a hike. Go, the phrase touch grass. It's like, no, like really get out and like
touch grass. That's freaking grass. Go out and say hello to people,
Well, to your point about Peter Parker, though, if you look at the movies, they kind of changed him into some of the movies, and he does not work. It doesn't work. He's not a skateboarder.
Yeah, this new Peter Parker is like, they've pretty much just accepted the whole premise. This is a Peter Parker that doesn't exist in comics, was crafted out of whole cloth. I mean, that's pretty much what Spider-Man Homecoming was an admission of. It's just like, this isn't a Peter Parker that exists anywhere. He's just this variant.
And you mean No Way Home?
No, both of them.
Well, I mean, it's 3 of them, so.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the character is not as potent without that Peter Parker bumbling photographer who can't pay his rent and can't get Mary Jane, right?
Well, the problem with the third Peter Parker is they got the right actor, but they missed the ingredient that makes him Peter Parker, with Uncle Ben. They left it. They tried to do it without Uncle Ben, and he just wasn't right. You can't have Peter Parker without Uncle Ben.
True, but the Tobey Maguire movies, all 3 of them worked a lot better than any of the other movies
because they had Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben's he's not really in the second one and the third one. He's kind of
he is. He's in flashbacks in the second one, and he's
flashbacks,
also
I guess, yeah.
And he references him all the time, and in the third one, you don't have to necessarily be in a movie to be in the movie.
That's a good point.
He's in the very fiber of him,
But,
and they left it out of Tom Holland, and Tom Holland is a complete maternal energy. There's no masculine energy in Tom Holland, and so he winds up being this soy boy kid that's trying to impress some toxic girl who he really shouldn't even give the time of day, because all she does is treat him like crap, and he's fawning after her, right? And then everybody's like, that's not Mary Jane Watson. I don't care if they call her MJ. I don't care what they call her. That's not Mary Jane Watson.
And to your point, though, the last movie where all 3 of them were together, even then, Tobey Maguire is still the best Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? Andrew Garfield was finally allowed to play Peter Parker like Peter Parker should have always been, because Peter Parker always carried guilt with him.
Yes, that's
he
true.
always carried guilt with him. I mean, he carries guilt everywhere. The great responsibility thing. That is the core of Peter Parker, is that he's given this great gift, and he did not use it correctly, and his Uncle Ben died because of it, and so he carries that with him. And they never had that with Andrew Garfield. And then when they brought him into this movie, it was right after his girlfriend had died and he had failed to save her. And so he finally had that guilt he carried with him. And what did he do? He saved the girl that he couldn't save earlier. And it was this wonderful moment. And the whole thing you just
described makes total sense now.
Yeah.
That component is a component that Peter Parker has to have.
Parker has to have Uncle Ben. He has to have failed in his first mission and got Uncle Ben killed. And he has to carry that guilt with him and that responsibility around with him, or he's not Peter freaking Parker.
That is cool, isn't it? That's a cool component to put your character.
But
Frankenstein is Frankenstein, okay? And they keep trying to make try to make some soy boy and hook him up to the wires and jolt him full of electricity and call him Frankenstein's monster. But he's not the monster. He's just not.
But this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how it's like it's all lifestyle. It's like let's create Peter Parker. He looks like Peter Parker. He's got the accessories on the outside.
Tom Holland is the most accurate Peter Parker that we've had.
Yeah, but the thing is like without the story, the heart of the story, without that inciting moment, without that impetus that's put upon him by tragedy, it's like I can crawl I can crawl on walls, I can punch brick walls and shatter them, eviscerate them, and I couldn't save my uncle because I was lazy for a few seconds.
Yeah,
you know, like and that's really what it was. He said, "Oh, what's the big deal? Not my problem." Well, it ended up literally becoming his problem.
Yeah,
and you know, you can extrapolate that.
It will
out.
forevermore be his problem. Yeah, it's like they kept trying. It's like Tom Holland is him having Batman without his parents murdered.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then trying to say that's Batman, and everybody knows that's not Batman. You gotta have that. You gotta have the alleyway. You gotta have Joe Chill, and you gotta have the pearls hitting the alleyway floor, and right followed by his mom and his dad. Okay, you gotta have that. You have to have that to be Batman, and they don't have that component. And deciding early on what makes your character, what's built into them that makes them who they are, and who they really are, is the first step to having something that gets off the slab and walks.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you clip anything from this show or that nobody watched and nobody came and visited, but except for me and Shadow Punk and Wyatt, but if you clip anything from that show, clip this. If you figure out what makes your person tick, what makes them who they are, and what has to be there for that person to be who they are, then you basically, the monster will get up and walk. Okay.
That's great.
There's a thing like I've been like I'll share later, like I've been listening to a lot of these like screenwriters, like podcasts, whatnot, where like it's like some of the best in the industry are like sitting there like, how do you write a script? What do you like? The one thing that was impressed upon me is emotional beats. It's not logic that drives these characters. It's seldom ever. It's like even Tony Stark, the guy who's like pretty much the personification of logic. It's like what drives him is like, one, he has guilt because some of his weapons end up in the wrong hands. Two, and this is the sure, he's confident, he's arrogant, he wants to constantly achieve goals. But the third thing is his curiosity. How do I beat this guy? It drives him crazy. How do I beat the challenge?
The challenge. Yeah.
Like, how do I make peace in our lifetime? Like, it was a confounding puzzle he wanted to solve, and he made Ultron like their biggest threat ever. And you know what I mean? It drives him all over the place in good directions and bad. And it's like, it's kind of what powers this character?
Right. Figure that out, and you will have a line on exactly who your characters are, and that will help in making your character. So figure it out. Find that emotional core. Find that truth. Find your Uncle Ben. You can't do it without Uncle Ben. Find your freaking Uncle Ben. Okay. And then the monster will get up and walk. Okay. All right. That's awesome. That's been Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics, and y'all have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Tell me what's on your mind.